Alright guys, we've made it to the last bad ending for Jack, and we have an appropriate music for this. I'm bringing you in here because I have quite a few choices that I need to go through. Only two are really needed, but Rory is kind of important to this bad ending. Because unfortunately, Rory's got to get bopped for this bad ending to happen. So there's going to be some slight dialogue changes. I'm probably going to pick some options I didn't end up picking during my last couple of playthroughs of the game just to see what happens, because none of them really matter except for two near the end. But anywho, without further ado, we need to fight to get away. And the dialogue here changed slightly, so I didn't know what to do. Just that I needed to get away from this man. Why was he even here? Why was he interested in me? What was he even talking about? I wanted to help him, but wasn't sure how. Alright, and then that's probably... No, not yet. I screwed up my courage, squeezed my eyes shut, and kicked with all my strength. My heel connected with his shin, and he staggered back a bit. Sorry. I lifted my foot and kicked him again, this time straight in the gut. Wow, we're really going after Rory this time. And this time I chose the better part of valor and ran. Is that... Nope, still. Wow, this is quite different. I didn't get far. I had no idea how he could move so fast or see so well in the dark when I was stymied by it and praying I didn't fall. He was on me in an instant, throwing me to the ground. I didn't even have time to catch myself. My face smacked into the ground and I tasted blood as I bit my tongue. But I was up in seconds, scrambling away from him. Or trying to. Is he... No. Wow, this is... It's been a while since I've seen this, so I thought this was gonna play out pretty similarly, but apparently not. He lifted me up by one arm and slammed me into the wall, then back to the floor. Every ounce of air fled my lungs, and for a second I lay stunned. Why is this happening? One of his hands wrapped around my ankle and started to pull me along with him. Okay.
They can't get into your brain from me. Need him. First. So he can look in you and show you what I see. What we see.
I didn't want to hurt him. I wasn't even sure I could. He'd recovered from my earlier attack pretty fast. But I kicked at his hand with my free foot, driving the heel of my boot into his wrist, before slamming it down on his fingers. He let out an angry yowl and released me. I staggered back to my feet, trying to put some distance between us. He reached for me again, and this time I screamed. No! My body went numb, and a pulse of energy burst away from me, striking him and sending him to the ground. I had no idea what that was. I just know he clutched his head and screamed, and I ran and didn't look back. Okay. And that is the story of Rory and how he got hurt. Okay, so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, and then I'll bring you in when something else changes, guys. Okay, we're in Chapter 2 now, and dialogue has stopped again for us. And I'm heading towards a branch of choices that I can pick something different from before, so might as well keep you in. I just told Jack to stop laughing at Morgan.
You're really curious about all this. Worrying about being in such a dangerous place.
I wouldn't say I'm worried. All of this is unfamiliar to me. The politics, the way things happen. You said people who live here are aware where the territories are and how to keep their heads down. I don't know that stuff. But I do live here now. The only way to learn is to ask.
Fair enough. I guess it's all pretty distasteful to you, huh?
What's distasteful is you jumping to conclusions about how I think. I'm sure many people here are just trying to make it through the day. Maybe even the people in these gangs.
You're not wrong there.
Okay. So, I think before I did the stubborn one. So I could do either cautious or emotional. I'll do emotional. Why not? I never thought I'd see it all personally. There's this part of me that wishes I wasn't seeing it now, but I'm torn. The thought of going back to live in willful ignorance isn't appealing either. At this point, I'm not sure if it makes a difference that I'm here or not regardless.
It makes a difference, Morgan. Or it can, if you want it to.
How? I'm just one person.
One person here in Delphine isn't the same as one person in New Albion. You're more than a single cog here. I get that making a difference in a place like this wasn't exactly your life's dream, but maybe it's better than going off and joining Endgame. And it doesn't feel like it, I'm sure, but there are more opportunities for you here.
You're right. It doesn't feel like that at all.
It's going to take a while to find some sort of equilibrium, but you've had opportunities no one else in this place has had. With your skills and knowledge, you can do a lot of things here. And don't forget, you have some important connections. Eventually you'll get to a place where those come in handy. Sorry, Butterfly. I know this isn't a pleasant thing to talk about, but it's reality in Chestershire.
I am keenly aware of that fact. Alright. And we're back. Great. Okay, probably gonna skip ahead for a little bit, so I shall bring you in once again in a while. Ah, I think we've reached the point of the route that Rory would have shown up if he had lived, but he hasn't. So it sounds like potentially somebody else has, unless Rory did live somehow.
I don't know what to do with him. Maybe take him down to Clark's.
Maybe later. For now, I want to keep him here. He seems out of it, but I think it's the psi fatigue. Based on his state, he's probably been wandering for a while now. I doubt he'll last longer on his own. Either way, I want to at least give him a good look over before we decide, though.
I caught the tail end of their conversation as I approached. I hadn't realized it before because Rowan was blocking my view of him, but there was an unfamiliar man sitting on the sofa. He was half slouched over, with his arms draped on his legs as he stared at a spot in front of him. His hair was hanging in greasy locks around a gaunt, tired face. Dark smudges were under his eyes, and his clothes were dirty and torn. A swell of pity settled in my stomach. Poor man. I wondered how often people like him turned up seeking a place to stay or just be safe. It looked like the two of them were handling it, though, and I doubted my input was needed or wanted. I retreated to let them continue to deal with it, but I took a spot just on the other side of the lobby where I could still watch. Not that I suspected anyone was going to need me to jump in and save the day, but I was also curious how newcomers like this were handled. Celeste and Rowan kept talking a moment longer before Celeste helped the man up and waved over a few others to help her. That set off a flurry of activity. She led him away, and the others were calling for towels, a clean set of clothes, food. Now that the decision was made, everyone was working to get him taken care of. He was the first new person to arrive since I had. I couldn't help but wonder if this was how they'd received me as well, with a moment of trepidation, then simply opening their arms and making sure I was cared for. Interesting, we didn't actually get a look at this new guy, but he also happens to have psi fatigue. A few minutes after Celeste disappeared with the man, Rowan came over and flopped next to me with a huff. Everything okay?
I suppose. Looks like we have another stray to care for.
Isn't that what this place is for? Caring for strays?
I guess so, but sometimes I don't know. I get it, half us were like that at one point until Kesa gave us a safe place here. But things have changed since then.
Changed how?
We have vulnerable people here, kids and the like. People who can't defend themselves well. There are other places people like that guy can go. Places within our control, but that aren't here. We have you to consider too. Who knows when someone is going to try to sneak in here to get their hands on you?
Are they not supposed to know I'm here? Reverse cages and all that?
That stuff isn't totally secure. Everyone knows that.
Celeste seemed to think the guy was okay.
Celeste thinks everyone should be able to be here if they need help. That's her nature. But we don't know that guy's story. He wouldn't answer questions. He seemed kind of off. He wouldn't even tell us what sort of Esper he is, if he even knows.
Oh, I think he was a bishop. Rowan turned his head sharply, eyes narrowing.
What makes you say that?
Well, I can sort of tell when I look at his psi energy.
Look at his psi energy.
Not really look, per se, when I sense it. He stared at me a long time through narrowed eyes, before blowing out a short puff of air through pursed lips.
Right. Well, I'll tell Celeste later on. I guess we should be grateful for any information we have.
Was he really that suspicious?
With people going missing off the streets, I just think we should be more careful.
He didn't seem dangerous or anything.
You can't always tell based on how someone is when they arrive. Trust me on this one.
Have there been other incidents where someone turned out to be dangerous?
Of course there have. This isn't some kind of utopia. There are a lot of messed up people out there. Not everyone who shows up on our doorstep is a kind, sunlit waif like you.
Thank you? I wouldn't call myself that. But I can understand feeling sympathy for someone who seems to be in a bad situation.
What do you know about people in bad situations? I doubt there are many like that in New Albion.
You'd be surprised. The day side has its problems, though people like to pretend it doesn't. He scoffed, but I suspected he was just worried. The day before I met Jack, I encountered a man like that. Well, not really like that. The man I met was shouting out strange things, incoherent, and didn't feel terribly safe. I was scared of him, but I also felt bad for him. Because whatever his situation was, I could see he was going through something rough. So I can understand wanting to reach out to someone like that. I can also understand being wary of them and wanting to keep a distance. I'm sure it's not a simple choice to make.
You're not wrong there. Well, I guess if he's on something, Celeste will probably be able to detect that, and we can send him to someone better equipped to help with it. Otherwise, looks like he'll be staying.
But you don't trust him, of course.
I don't trust anyone.
Really? Anyone?
Almost anyone, yeah.
Is that... Okay, now we're back. Interesting. It was a short time later that Jack arrived, much earlier than usual. Celeste intercepted him before he reached me, and they talked for a bit. She must have been catching up on the newcomer. I watched him closely as they talked. His psi energy was dull, fainter than usual. Though he was smiling and acting normal, I couldn't imagine he was anything but tired. So when he suggested a walk, I demurred and said I was the one too tired. I suggested we go up to the roof for a while instead. He seemed surprised, but agreed. On the way up, I caught him up on the rest of my day before the new arrival. As usual, he had little to say about his own day. Are we... Yeah, now we're going. For a little bit. Helping people like that man from earlier is great, for instance. Okay. I'll keep you guys here for a second. I could do either of these. I'll do the emotional one, why not? Let's see if we go any further. We did go further. Okay. And then stopped again.
I figured I'd give one to the new guy too, since he's still recovering. So you can leave that one to me.
Okay, so no interactions with the new guy. Is everything alright with him? Something about how she said that felt off.
Well, you also went through a bout of psi fatigue, so I'm sure you can understand. But he's been acting a little strange, so we're cautious with letting people interact with him.
Strange how?
I've seen a lot of post-traumatic stress in my time here. Many members of the court have been through a lot. He's got all the signs of having experienced severe trauma. Something more than just being homeless and hungry. But he won't say what happened to him. If we can't get him talking, we may try to send him somewhere else. Not that we have many options, but there may be some places where he feels safer than here. I think it would be good if someone could get him to open up. Anyway, at this point we're just waiting to see. It hasn't been that long after all. But still, I'll take care of him, so you just focus on everyone else.
I understand. Interesting. So we don't interact with this new person. I have this weird feeling in my gut like it's Brennan. And he's just here, like, way earlier. After that, Carrie went to hand out her load of blankets first. She said there was no rush and that I should finish my tea first. But I only took a few swallows before I left it. Everyone was grateful for the additional blankets. I also learned this wasn't exactly an uncommon occurrence. The building was old and things like this happened. There weren't many people with the skills to make repairs to the equipment. The mechanics around the area were self-taught, and many of them were overloaded with other work. Sometimes Kesa would have to come personally to take care of it, which was something that surprised me. I didn't see him as a mechanic sort, but the thought he might come by for a visit soon made me happy. Still? Okay. I guess because we're not ending the day with Rory. I wanted to talk to him about my parents in person. Maybe find a way that I could send them a message directly instead of relying on him to ferry them back and forth. But for the time being, I focused on getting everything handed out and checking on the ones who needed it. It didn't take long. A couple of older occupants tried to reject the blankets, saying I should give them to others or keep them for myself. I had to warn them Celeste wouldn't be happy if they got sick or something. It was amusing how invoking her name was usually enough to ensure compliance. But despite that, seeing how everyone always seemed so concerned for the others who lived here, or were willing to sacrifice for the good of the community, it was touching. It spoke to the greater purpose of the court and what everyone was trying to do here. I dropped off the last blanket and headed back upstairs to see if Carrie needed help with anything else. I was almost to the stairs when I thought I heard someone call my name. Yeah, what's... I trailed off when I realized no one was behind me. That's odd. That hadn't sounded like it was from one of the nearby rooms, but in the hall with me. I started back down the hall, listening in case they called me again. Brennan, I swear if it's you.
Morgan.
I whipped my head around when the voice sounded right next to my ear, hard in my throat. There was no one there. Okay. It's okay. Just... still jumpy from earlier, that's all. There was movement down at the end of the hall, and I thought I saw someone moving around in the shadows there. I clenched my jaw, stalking that direction, wondering if this was some kind of psychic joke. From behind me, it felt like someone gently stroked their fingers through my hair. You know what? I'm calling it now. It's Brennan. Brennan has, like, touchy... He's very touchy, which is amusing, considering he's based on William. Whoa, okay, not Brennan. Who the heckity hey are you? Okay. I spun around again, letting out a dismayed cry and staggering back when I saw someone there. The lights flickered and went out at the same moment. I could see nothing but a dark silhouette. Thanks?
You have such clear eyes. Beautiful eyes. The kind that don't devour you in your sleep like his.
Okay, so you've also met Brennan. The strange tone of voice reminded me a little of the man I'd met in New Albion. The one who had attacked me in that vivarium. Is that the new guy?
Does this option matter? Apparently not. Okay.
Let's handle this a bit better than we did with Rory, hopefully. I don't think you should be out of bed yet. Celeste has probably told you to keep resting, right? Your psi fatigue was really bad when you first showed up.
I was cold. It's cold here.
I kept my distance from him, still wary. The heating system is broken, but we're passing out spare blankets. Do you know Carrie? She intended to make sure you received one.
I know who she is. I don't know her. I don't know anyone. I just know the dark.
Okay, so he's with Organization 13. Great. This man was really, really freaking me out. Did you break the lights?
The light is what broke me.
What are you... Alright. There was a sudden shout upstairs, the scuffling of feet above us. I glanced up at the ceiling instinctively. The lights blazed back to life, and... What the... The man was... gone. Teleportation? But I was sure he was a bishop. But controlling the lights would imply... king, right? Because... technology? And also was able to whisper in her ear. And don't tell me there's another king. There's kings everywhere. How does he know her name? I mean, yeah, he's here, but like, I don't know. Ugh. Whoever that was, I rubbed my eyes as a shiver ran through my body. And for the second time, I bolted up the back stairs to the lobby, thoroughly creeped out. Carrie, you didn't tell me this guy was creepy. The first person I spotted there was Carrie. I must have looked terrified. She came right to me as soon as our eyes met.
Morgan, what's wrong? You look...
Have you seen that man? That new guy?
Yeah, I just gave him the blanket a couple of minutes ago. He was in his room.
He can project just like Brennan. What the... He was in his room. Then who was that downstairs? I was certain it was him.
Morgan?
I ran my hands over my face, unable to make sense of what I just experienced. There was another loud noise by the door. What's happening up here?
I'm not sure. I think the group that went out with Jack has returned. Celeste went out to meet them. What happened to you?
I'm not sure. I had a weird encounter downstairs. I thought it was the new guy, but it sounds like it couldn't have been him. So now I'm confused as to what it was. Carrie glanced towards the door again, then back at me.
Look, I'll go check on him again, okay? You go see what's going on over there and come let me know.
Got it. Thanks. Okay, and then Tara's...
Get her over here now! Let me take a look at her!
Celeste materialized through the group leading June, who was carrying a woman I recognized but had never spoken to. Jack and Rowan were nowhere in sight yet. I hovered on the edges of the group, watching June take the woman to the sofa Celeste directed. The woman wasn't unconscious as I first thought. Her eyes were wide open and her lips moving, though I didn't think she was speaking. I edged closer to hear what Celeste had to say. There wasn't much I could do to help with the current situation, but I at least wanted to know what was going on. This should be... okay, it's not completely different. It's a little bit different because I think we had a talk with Rory about the eyes and stuff, and she's like, oh, she's talking about the eyes. In New Albion, the man from the vivarium talked about eyes like that, devouring. And downstairs just now. Whatever that encounter was, he had said something like that too. Yeah, that your eyes are clear. I still didn't know what that was, but now I definitely needed to tell the others about it. I love that Morgan is so willing to communicate things that are happening and doesn't just like hold on to it. Like, I don't want to freak anyone out. Maybe I'll like ruminate on it for 84 years and then when everything goes bad, I'll talk about it. She's like, yo, this weird thing happened. People need to know about it. Like, as soon as the situation is calm enough for me to tell people. So I really appreciate that about her. I was still reeling from that revelation while Celeste had already started treating Tara. Okay. And... with that, I don't think I've done the emotional one yet, right? No, I haven't. Okay, might as well do it.
Celeste has medical supplies stashed away. I'll be back.
He disappeared, but for a moment my mind went back to Celeste. I glanced back at where she was still working over Tara to stabilize her. I'd watched her repairing Terra at the cellular level to repair the damage to her brain. Could I? My Psi was still dyed amber from touching Celeste earlier. If I do nothing, he may die. I nodded half to myself and set my hand on Jack's side. What are you... Just wait a moment. I shut my eyes, catching the area around the wound, the extent of the damage. I swallowed hard against the nausea as I tried to assess the injury. The damage went deep inside to the nearby organs. If I could at least stop the bleeding. Okay, so this is all new. Cool. I lacked medical knowledge to do any kind of healing on a very specific level, but I could imagine the cells regenerating. I could visualize it clearly after watching Celeste do it. So I didn't have to understand the process as long as I could do that. If I could just get the bleeding to stop and maybe boost the regeneration of the blood vessels. From beside me, Rowan said something again, but I blocked him out as I focused on just getting the bleeding to stop. Threading my Psi into Jack's body the way Celeste had done to Terra. Smaller and smaller threads, weaving into the organs, into the blood vessels. That's right. If it's just this much, I can do it. The bleeding was slowing. I was doing it. The blood vessels were knitting themselves back together. Yes!
What's going on here?
My concentration shattered at the sound of his voice so close, and for a moment I sat there breathing heavily as I stared at Jack's injury. The damage to the outside was still significant. With a shaky hand, I reached out to June. Give me something to wipe away the blood.
Were you mimicking Celeste?
Trying to. June set a square of folded gauze in my hand, and I used it to gently blot away the blood on Jack's injury. I just tried to stop the bleeding, inside and out. I don't have the confidence to do much more than that. I'm no doctor. Just a poor imitation of Celeste. At the very best.
If a poor imitation can save his life, that's what matters.
I let out a shaky breath, nodding faintly. Come on. We should still clean him up. I don't know what kind of state Celeste will be in when she's done with Terra. But Jack should be able to hold out now. Okay, so she was a little more cautious in her healing, but still healed him. It was a long time before Celeste came to check on Jack. As expected, she wasn't in great shape from having worked on Terra. She tried to reserve some of her strength, but when she realized I'd already repaired the internal damage, she seemed relieved. She decided to leave the shoulder injury alone and focus on finishing up my patch job on his side and stabilizing his Psi. Everything else, she said, would be up to his own healing ability. She was looking pretty rough by the time she was finished and finally agreed to go rest. Alright. June carried Jack up to his room. I was right behind them, having already decided I would stay with him and monitor him. They brought my blankets from my room so I could sleep in his. If he needed anything, I'd be right there. I lay beside him for a while, watching him sleep. There was never a chance to tell everyone what happened downstairs earlier. It would have to wait, I guess. There were more important things to worry about for now. I eventually dozed off next to him, just glad he was alright. Alright. New chapter. And we're not getting too far. Now things are changing more and more. I know you want to get back out there, but you got the bare minimum treatment required to stabilize you. With Terra in bad shape as well, Celeste had to pace herself. Once the bulk of the bleeding was stopped, all Celeste did was kind of patch you up a little and stabilize your Psi so you could self-regenerate. But your injuries were really bad. You had brain damage from a Psi burst, as well as 2 serious wounds and a broken wrist. It's going to take time to recover. I hope you realize how close we came to losing you. Okay. There we go. Let me check the flow chart. Ooh. I haven't done the there's a time to be reckless yet. Sometimes being cautious is the wiser choice.
I don't think this was one of them.
Do you ever?
I'd rather make headway, even if it means getting hurt. Besides, Terra was nearly killed because of these people. I wasn't going to let that slide.
Did you make headway? I mean, did you learn anything by rushing in like that? Well? You definitely got hurt, though. He let out a long, frustrated sigh.
Oh, I can see what you're trying to say.
Good. Then maybe next time you'll make a better choice.
Okay, Mother. God, you sound as bad as Kesa right now.
I'm just saying that sometimes being reckless is helpful, and sometimes being cautious is helpful. I understand that. But you can't always avoid getting hurt. But being reckless didn't pay off this time. You were pretty cautious about how you first approached me, right? You lurked around for at least a day before approaching. Why is that?
If I'd been a little more reckless, maybe I could have stopped that whole terrifying kidnapping and being attacked situation.
Maybe. But you had a reason for being cautious, didn't you?
Well, the main reason was that Kesa was in charge of that mission. But I guess he reckoned if we approached you recklessly, you'd be afraid of us.
Probably. I imagine there also would have been a confrontation with Endgame.
Not like we haven't had those before.
But it's wiser to avoid them when you can. Anyway, it's all in the past now. My point was that it's okay to think before you act. I mean, I get that thinking might not be your forte,
What the hell does that mean?
but I'm sure you can manage it before jumping into a fight where you're outnumbered and outmatched.
I didn't know I was outmatched until they started flinging those stupid energy things at me.
That's funny. She really got him there. I know that, like, using your brain, the other brain in your head is, like, not your forte, but... Oh, Jack. I almost told him what had happened downstairs with that new guy, though I couldn't say for sure it even was the new guy. Either way, I was concerned he'd force himself to get up and start working again if he knew. No, that was probably something I should tell Rowan and the others, not Jack. Not for now. They needed to know, but that didn't mean Jack did too. Good girl. Okay. Hey, we made some progress.
You have something to report. Jack mentioned you may possess a special sensitivity to sight-based abilities. Or is it something else?
It's not related to my Esper abilities, I don't think. Or maybe it is. There was just something odd that happened, and it may be tied to a new resident here.
Is this about Lucas?
Is that what his name is? Lucas, huh? Ah, is that the name of the man who arrived recently? In poor condition?
I believe so. Jack and Rowan have both mentioned him to me.
It might be. But like I said, it was an odd occurrence, and I was still not sure exactly what happened.
Explain it to me.
I was downstairs alone because Carrie asked me to help pass out extra blankets because of the heating situation. And as silly as it sounds, I kept thinking I was hearing someone say my name. I'm not usually spooked or prone to hearing things. Then the lights went out and there was someone in the hall with me. I couldn't see them well because it was dark, but I thought it was Lucas. He said something about eyes devouring people, but then I heard the noise upstairs, and the lights were back and Lucas was gone. It felt real, not like a vision or something like that, but there's no way Lucas or anyone else could have come or gone that fast, except through teleportation. And Lucas is a bishop. Anyway, right after that, I went upstairs and Tara was still in the throes of that mind bomb. At one point, she sat up and said something about eyes devouring her.
Eyes that devour people. That's an unusual mental image.
And that's not the first time I've heard it. When I was in New Albion, I met this man who said very similar things.
The man you encountered the day before Endgame tried to take you.
I guess I shouldn't be surprised you know about that. He just shrugged. I know things. Anyway, I can't say for sure what happened downstairs, but I do know this theme of eyes keeps coming up.
There does appear to be a connection between all these events. I'm not sure how Lucas ties into it. Perhaps you had some sort of psychometric experience downstairs. Why Lucas was present, I'm unsure.
Lucas seems traumatized from something. I can't help but wonder if he's encountered the same person or group that left that mind bomb for Tara to find.
I haven't looked into his past because I didn't deem it necessary at first. We get people here from all walks of life and with a variety of negative experiences. I can't look after them all. But perhaps it's time I did. Thank you for informing me of this.
I can't imagine it would be beneficial to keep what happened to myself.
I'm pleased that you're contemplating things that might benefit everyone here.
Okay, are we... yeah, we're back now. Ba-da-da-doo-doo. Hold on, I want to check something real quick. Whoop. There was an affection check level 1, but I'm too high for that. Okay, I've done all these. You know what? I'll skip ahead a little bit. Maybe I'll get a little further than like 5 seconds, and I'll bring you in when something changes. Okay, we're in the next chapter now, and the dialogue stopped again. And there's also a couple of things happening in this chapter, so I'll keep you guys around for a bit. The color situation didn't take long to work out. I'm just trying to get the hang of using a wider variety of abilities than before.
Like learning healing biokinesis.
That was unplanned.
I'm glad you cared enough to try. But don't hurt yourself for my sake, Morgan. It's not worth...
I didn't come even close to hurting myself. I literally just did the bare minimum to stop the bleeding of the one injury. Celeste did everything else. And for the record, you don't get to decide what is worth it for me. That's something only I get a say in. Aww. Soft faces and blushes. Love to see it. His lips curved into a smile and he took my hand, sliding his fingers between mine. Are we back? No, not yet.
Noted. In that case, thank you for saving my life. And taking care of me since then.
Someone has to look out for you. Are you even aware how much time Sylvia spends worrying about you in that journal? Okay.
Huh. Well, I've read it.
I figured you must have. Alright, music change. There we go. Now we're talking. Okay, something changed again. It was just the usual sort of thing. Magnified now that there were more people than usual. What's the usual sort of thing? Helping out around Cordis. Gotcha. One thing I had been doing was avoiding Lucas. That's probably wise. Kesa had found some time to spend looking into his past. He believed Lucas to be an escapee from a lab that had been destroyed a little less than a year prior, belonging to a government-run group called Nyx. So another one of these guys, eh? There were many people with sparse personal records in the court, but Lucas had none, almost as if his data had been scrubbed from the system. It took Kesa hours to retrieve them. From there, he had traced the source of the deleted files to Nyx. There was not a lot of information on the lab. The data hadn't just been wiped, but scrambled. It was difficult for him to retrieve. Lucas had probably gone through hell in that place. Kesa had only found a few intact log entries from some of the staff, so he had at least some idea of what the people there had gone through. More than that, Kesa believed there was a good chance that man from New Albion had been at the same lab. He found a little more information about him, but not where he was now. If he was still alive at all. That's true. I'm assuming he died, but maybe because we didn't break the connection between him and Brennan, he's still with Brennan, potentially. Kesa had struggled to find information about what caused the lab's destruction, but he had pieced together a loose chain of events. There was information hinting at a very powerful Esper among the test subjects, someone the staff had taken great care to keep suppressed. The accident that resulted in the escape of numerous test subjects was related to that Esper. Lucas hadn't been very forthcoming with additional information, and he hadn't responded to questions about me at all. He just said he didn't know me. He knows you, but he doesn't know you. Carrie had got only a little more out of him. At the very least, Lucas said that someone at the lab could take over the minds of other test subjects, control them from far away, view the world through their eyes. Kesa was digging into it more, doing his best to unlock the remaining files and learn just what happened at that place. I didn't know if he'd had any success yet. With luck, he'd been able to find out more, and he would share it with Jack when they talked later. I mean, that would be great. Come to think of it, that man I met in Cisalis, the one from the vivarium, he had strange eyes too. But not when I first met him the day before. His eyes were normal then, but the next time I saw him, he was odd the first day, but definitely more driven to attack me the second. But even so, he was nothing like the people you encountered the other day. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here.
It's clear from the start you were a target for this guy.
Maybe, but I'm struggling to connect all the dots here. This guy was part of a human experimentation project that he escaped from. Okay, I think we're... No, not yet. Now he's targeting Espers to gather them up for... what? He literally sent someone to the other side of the planet to retrieve me. Why? If he's capable of it, why not take over my mind back in Cisalis? Why not now? Is this? Nope, still not yet.
Perhaps it's a distant situation. He most likely had a pre-established connection with that man you met in Cisalis, but not with you. I imagine that's why he wanted to capture you first instead. And he may not know you're here. Remember, the disappearances in Chestershire began before you arrived.
And what about Lucas? Where does he fit into all of this? He's not here to attack anyone, or else he would have already.
I can't say for sure. It's possible not every attempt to control a person is successful, but it may leave mental scars, for lack of a better way to put it.
Why control people in the first place? Why try to gather Espers or whatever he's doing? What's his goal?
Something he clearly doesn't want us interfering with if he left a mind bomb for us to stumble on. It's obvious we're missing substantial pieces of the puzzle at this point. For instance, the fact that he can mind control anyone in the first place is bizarre. F-class Espers do have unique abilities. It could just be that he's a fairy with skills we haven't seen before.
Someone who can control other people is horrifying. How do we fight back or defend against that?
Our bishops might be equipped to do it. They're the most knowledgeable when it comes to shielding against mental attacks.
A shield against a mental attack, huh? If I saw one of these supposedly mind-controlled people, I might be able to determine what's being done to them. Now that I can visualize and sense Psi in a more tangible way, it could be possible for me to work out a method to, I don't know, sever the connection somehow? Oh, that's right, because she hasn't actually had experience with this yet. Interesting, good point. Or at least interfere with it.
No, we're not going to go find a bunch of zombie Espers for you to study.
That's not what I meant, Jack.
It's not quite to that point yet, but if we can't find another solution, I may have to rely on your skills, Morgan.
I'll be ready if it's needed, assuming my skills are even helpful.
So what's the plan now? I want to know more about this escaped test subject with supposed mind control abilities. I'll do my best to salvage more information so I can find about this lab and test subject. We need to know more about who he is and why he might be involved in all this. And I'll see if I can track where he is now. It might be difficult if he's been surviving off-grid for a long time, but I'll do my best. I'll have Carrie keep a close eye on Lucas. So far, he has done nothing suspicious, not that we can prove. We still don't know if that incident with you was his doing or more of a psychometric response on your end, Morgan. But it might be wise to move him away from Cordis regardless. Searching for the missing people will remain difficult. We can't risk a psychic search that will inflict another of our bishops with a mind bomb. Tara is still recovering from the last one. I should be ready to head out again tomorrow with Rowan and June. This time we stay as a group. Good. I expect you to retreat faster if you encounter those Espers again. I believe that, for now, our best approach may be prevention. But given how spread out everyone is, that may prove difficult. Infrastructure here is lacking severely, but I've sent all camera feeds to a central location I can monitor with relative ease.
We might be... Okay, now we're back. We're back to the normal planning. Have we not done one of these? I need to check this real quick. Ooh, there's no way I wouldn't. Did we do this one? No, we haven't. Okay, this is the one choice that we haven't done yet. Yay. Yeah, no. There was no way I wasn't going to get involved here. All other considerations aside, I come from a family of problem solvers. My dad, my brothers, and my mom may be an artist, but that doesn't mean she's not included. We all have this tendency to try to fix things that are broken. Oof, what does that say about Jack? I'm no different in that regard. And that's New Albion culture as well. There's always a push to do better, prove yourself, work hard, contribute to your community. It's pretty ingrained. When I look at this place, it's hard for me to not see what it could be, and that makes me want to help it become that. When I see people here struggling to get by, I can't help but feel there are so many ways to make it better for them, and I want to be a part of it. I understand that Case's situation limits how fast progress can be made. When you change things too fast, you catch attention, and the court may not be ready for that attention yet.
Sometimes it's good to push limits. Sometimes it's necessary. As soon as the current crisis is resolved, he's probably going to start working on some of your suggestions. I hope you're prepared, because I reckon he'll put you in charge of it. He's not one to ignore available resources. That includes you.
I'm not sure how I feel about being a resource, but I'll do what I can to help.
People are the most valuable resource anyone has. That's just life. If you want to change things, you need people at your side to help. Kesa knows that.
We stood there for a long time afterward, not talking, just watching the city below. And then Dreamland. Okay, nothing changed with Dreamland despite the whole Lucas situation. Interesting. Okay, I should be able to skip ahead for a little bit again, so I shall bring you in a little while. Okay, we're getting an alternate girl chat after Morgan got taken over by the eyes. So I guess this is going to probably involve more Lucas stuff.
Back to what you were saying, though. Are you certain someone was using Psi to actively lure you away?
Yes, I'm sure of it.
I'd heard this guy could use some form of mind control, but I had my doubts. The fact he took control when you were asleep is telling, though. From what I know about those sorts of abilities, active minds are a hell of a lot harder to work with.
So he targets people when their minds are less active, such as during sleep.
Do you think he was in control of your body, making you walk?
No, it didn't feel like someone was controlling my body like a puppet. It was more like he was manipulating my dream and I was walking to him on my own.
When you sleep, there are certain mechanics that keep your body from acting out your dreams. He'd have to have overridden that natural paralysis. I keep thinking about what Lucas was saying earlier.
Lucas? What happened with him?
Oh, that was a whole thing that happened. He had a complete meltdown after that scream of yours.
Oh, really?
We had to get him out of Cordis and somewhere else to calm him down. Kesa was planning to relocate him anyway. No one expected it to go down quite like that.
So Lucas is just out of here now. Okay, I mean, if he doesn't want to be creepy anymore, that's fine with me.
We had to sedate him in the end.
What in the world happened?
He panicked and started screaming about the Fisher King, saying he was here, watching us, looking through our eyes, spying. He was clawing at his face, trying to attack me too. It was pretty bad.
I never meant for something like that to happen. I hoped he'd be okay. To go as far as to attack Carrie. The Fisher King, huh? He can't be insinuating this person is a king rank, right? I don't think a king rank would have abilities like this. Mind control or overriding brain functions.
Unless he's using the nanosystem.
The nano... system? To control people? I rubbed a finger over my lower lip as I mulled that over. The nanites were capable of a lot, including overriding natural body functions. But inducing dreams? I wasn't sure about that. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but what about the mind bombs?
We don't know for sure he set them up. If he's been kidnapping and controlling Espers, then who knows what types he has working for him.
That's true.
How can we block something like that? We can't even look for this guy with mind bombs waiting for everyone who expands their sphere to look around.
Still, king ranks were supposed to be so rare, even considering experimentation. And this guy supposedly destroyed a whole lab. Could a king rank be capable of that? They were powerful, but not in that way.
In any case, there are going to be others working on figuring out the details. I'm more interested in learning how you blocked the worst of that mind bomb. That's not an easy feat.
Are we? No, not yet.
And no offense, but your inexperience with Psi. If you blocked it that well as a complete newbie, some of our more experienced people might be able to improve on your technique. If we can come up with a way to block the damage in its entirety, it would open a lot of doors for us when it comes to searching for this jerk. As for the luring part, if this guy is using Psi for that, we might be able to strengthen the reverse cage around Cordis to keep him out.
But what did that mean for everyone else? If this guy was just using his Psi to make people wander away... If he was leading me down to the ruins, does that mean he's hiding down there?
I can't imagine what's going to happen if we have to go do a manual search down there, especially given the way the place reacts to Psi. This guy was able to play around down there without setting off any kind of reaction. But that may not mean much. We still don't really know much about how or why Arrayan Tech responds the way it does. There's surely a pattern to it, but we haven't worked it out yet.
So it could have been a fluke.
Or it means he's found a way to avoid it. That would be a problem, because those ruins go all under the city. If he's found a way to keep himself safe while navigating that place, it gives him access to... everywhere. And if he can use his Psi there without problems while we can't, not good.
I just wish I had even a hint as to what he was trying to accomplish.
Finding that out is at the top of everyone's list right now. Well, well, look who's back.
Uh-oh, somebody's in trouble again. Okay. Well, they be making out, they be smooching, things be happening. Okay, I'm gonna make a save here, because apparently... this doesn't always mean death by merging with Brennan, so I want to see... excuse me. I want to see if this changes based on choices I've made up to this point or not. I'm curious. It did. Interesting. So she was going to and then got stopped. But I didn't quite make it there.
Morgan, where were you heading?
Just up to rest a bit to read. Why?
I was going to head down to the catacombs to walk around a little. I wondered if you'd come with me.
Oh?
To be honest, I don't feel all that confident by myself with everything going on.
Of course. I'll come. There was no way I could say no. And maybe it was for the best this way. It gave me something to do without me doing something Jack would be unhappy about. At the very least, Carrie was with me, so it wasn't like I was doing something on my own. Interesting. So this can be quite a bit different because we don't chat with Sylvia. So what does that entail for the future exactly? This is not necessary for the bad ending, by the way, but I wanted to test it out for science, and science worked in my favor. Together, Carrie and I went down to the catacombs together. It was silent as always, and though I hadn't found it so before, it felt ominous. But it was only my perception of it that had changed. The place itself wasn't any different than it had been.
Do you remember which direction you went the other night?
Well, there's only one way to the ruins, right? She shook her head.
No, the corridors branch off and every one of them eventually runs into the ruins.
Ugh. That meant I really lucked out that night. I went the same way I always have, so straight down this main path. As we walked, she was looking hard around us. We were moving slow, and with the way she was staring at the ground, I could only imagine she was searching for signs of traffic. Or she could just be listening really hard. I stiffened when I heard what I thought was a voice behind us. Did you hear that? Carrie paused as well, glancing over her shoulder as she listened.
There are people down here.
My heart rose to my throat at those words. Her frown deepened, and she shook her head before smiling at me.
I'm pretty sure I recognize those voices. Jack and June must have found a way in somewhere. We'll check in with them. Better not to have two groups wandering around without knowledge of what the other's doing.
It didn't take us long to find each other, and I was sure they heard us long before they saw us as well.
So, do I want to know what you two are doing down here?
You aren't the only one worried about Rowan, and I didn't want to be down here alone. Morgan is the only one to ever shut this guy down, so I wanted her with me.
Carrie...
You can't lock her up in a tower for her safety, Jack. And she wants to help. Better she's with me than tempted to do something stupid on her own because you're being overprotective.
Which almost happened.
I'm not being...
You kind of are, actually.
Fine, I get it. Did you find anything?
I love Carrie. Carrie's great. What a girl boss.
No, we haven't been down here long. But looks like you found another entrance.
Yeah, stupidly close by. I don't know how we weren't aware of it. With this, we can be almost certain Rowan is down here somewhere. Or was.
I wonder if that means everyone else is too. I mean, is this guy operating from here or just using it as a point of access?
Who can say? I can't imagine someone staying down here all the time. But we don't even know where half the entrances are to the underground.
Which makes it worrying that this guy does.
We're going to look around the catacombs for a while, but we won't go into the ruins. Maybe we'll find some trace of Rowan.
Morgan, I get that you want to help, but this guy has already targeted you once. You might be making yourself vulnerable if you're down here. And don't think I'm just trying to shelter you. We may need your abilities because this is going to get to a point we can't justify not taking some risks. So far, you're the only one who has broken out of his control. We can't risk something happening to you right now, for everyone's sake. I want you to stay upstairs until Kesa can come out, because if you and Kay combine your efforts, we may finally make some headway. But you've got to be safe for that to happen.
Alright, I'll go back up for now. But answer one thing for me first. Are there any maps of this area at all?
Some of it, yeah. Not a lot. Like I said, many people just stay away from here.
I want to see what maps there are. And you two should map out any new ground you cover. If we end up doing any kind of search down here, we can't continue to wander around aimlessly. We have to organize and make sure that we're not covering the same areas over and over. A methodical approach is much more likely to reveal results. Jack grinned and nodded, seeming relieved I wasn't going to argue over going back upstairs.
Carrie can get you the maps we have. We'll record as we go and map out our path today. When we get back, we can consolidate everything and go over it with you. How's that?
Much better than being told to hide and do nothing. He drew me into a careful hug. Aww.
Thanks, Morgan.
I liked that. That was cute. As much as I didn't want to, Carrie and I went back upstairs after that, and she spent some time with me going over the mapped out area. It was far too small, unfortunately, at least given how large the area was, but it gave me some idea of how we might best approach an ongoing search. I also pointed out to Carrie that we should seal up any entrances we found. Limiting the ways in and out of the underground would only benefit us. We relayed that message to Jack and June as well. Another small group went to join them down there and help. And it turned out to be a much bigger search than they planned. Carrie, Celeste, and I sort of managed it from within Cordis, and for the first time, I felt like I was doing something other than being sheltered. Nice. Alright. Kesa and Veli would arrive in the morning. Kesa, I was looking forward to seeing, hoping he had found more information about the person we were up against, who he was, maybe even what his abilities were. As for Veli, well, it would be nice to have another queen rank nearby, but he was volatile, as Jack put it. He wasn't taking Rowan's disappearance well, which was understandable. Anyone would be distraught over a loved one vanishing like that. Alright, we back? Okay. Let me just check. I think I've done all of these before? No. We haven't done the maybe we need that. Maybe a rampage is what we need. Alright, set Veli loose, why don't we? Maybe a rampage is what we need. Nothing else has worked.
You've never seen Veli go on a rampage. That's the only reason you can say that, Morgan.
True. That's true, but under the circumstances, I think I can imagine it. And I hold by what I said.
So do I.
Then I'm even more worried. Because we're up against someone that outclasses all of us right now.
Not you, clearly.
I wouldn't go that far. I'm too inexperienced to deal with something like this alone. And everyone's determined to protect me. But it's possible the situation needs a queen that's able to take some risks. One that's comfortable rampaging a little.
Backing this Fisher King into a corner with a furious queen rank could just make him more dangerous. He could attack instead of just lurking in the shadows trying to lure our people away.
We can't keep letting him take people either.
I get that, but none of us have ever dealt with anything like this. I'll just be glad when Case is here. I'm hoping he's been able to dig up something that can help us.
Me too. At the very least, his presence would be good for morale. Maybe he would have a solid plan to deal with this. Because the assault on the court was becoming more and more bold. We needed something. Jack and I were silent for a long time after that. We stood on the roof for a while and then went inside where the mood was just as dark. Okay. Okay, interesting. Because we just started a new chapter, right? We did, okay. I had strange, vague dreams. Each time I woke, they slipped away from me, but when I inevitably fell back into the murky haze of sleep, I was right back in the same dream. I thought it was about Sylvia. Oh, is this how this happens? Because we didn't do the journal? Though the memories were faded and blurry. I could never see her face in the dream, but we were having a long conversation. An important one. The contents eluded me upon waking, though. Dang it! I imagined it was the result of my having spent so much time fretting over her journal. I just had this weird sensation of needing to remember. But I never did. Dang. That's unfortunate. Okay. We've done all of these. This is definitely not the one to do, so we'll tackle him. Who's planning what? Oh, Fisher King, yes. I don't know what he's planning. The fact remains he hasn't actually hurt anyone that we're aware of. And I feel like he could have. 100 times over from what I've seen of his level of power.
Doesn't make me like him anymore.
No, it doesn't. But it makes me wonder if maybe we shouldn't be aiming at a confrontation. Maybe we should just try to make contact. If he doesn't want to hurt us, he might be able to be reasoned with.
I don't think this guy wants to talk, Morgan.
Maybe not, but we can't punch someone we can't find.
Then we need to find him.
We also can't punch someone that's way stronger than we are. Really, this all counts as new. Interesting.
We aren't sure he's stronger. He has odd abilities. That doesn't equate to strength. And you've shown you can counteract him. So far, you've pulled herself...
Herself? Probably yourself?
So far, you've pulled yourself out of his control. And Jack. You may have just lucked out with yourself that night. But today wasn't luck. That's not a bad track record.
2 people isn't a great track record either.
I think it's clear you can sever this guy's connection to people. As long as you think you can repeat what you did with Jack.
I should be able to, as long as this guy doesn't change his strategy.
That's something to be grateful for.
I agreed, though Jack didn't look happy about it. But severing connections wasn't the same as being able to go head-to-head with someone to protect everyone else. I would do whatever was in my power, though. And I would succeed, because... what other option did I have? Oh, and Case and Veli are here. Okay, so William Lee.
Though we can't say what his classification was, I think we can surmise that he was either a bishop or queen rank based on the information I've uncovered.
Interesting. So I wonder why he had different information this time.
More likely an F-class queen by our standards, given how powerful the records indicate he was. That alone would explain why they attempted to clone him in the first place.
Right. That made sense. Of course there were no nanites on Earth, so they wouldn't have been involved in his development. As a natural Esper, we'd have classified him as a fairy type. Until my appearance, there were no known F-class queens, so this was probably an attempt to create one. But where did they acquire a genetic blueprint for this guy? Okay, now we're back. Great. Okay, utilize a nanosystem to form a mental link. Like Lucas.
It seems so. And that man you encountered in New Albion. From what you said about him, it seems Brennan may have maintained a partial link to him, then regained control when he sensed you through the man. How he extended his range that far, I can't say.
Then why hasn't he re-established his connection with me? He clearly has the range. He only tried to take me the one time, and not since then.
That's a good point, actually. He hasn't made another grab for you, but Lucas disappeared as soon as we relocated him.
Really? Oh dear. Well, rip Lucas.
Lucas was clearly still affected by his past. It's possible Brennan had maintained a partial link with him, like the man in New Albion. Morgan, on the other hand, severed her link, as she did for you. Then it's possible he can't re-establish severed links, but can regain control if the link is only weakened.
That seems likely.
But why would that be the case?
Interesting. Okay. Well, if Lucas is gone, then probably no more Lucas stuff is gonna happen, I assume. Anyway, I will fast forward a bit, hopefully make a little bit more progress, and bring you guys in soon. Okay, we actually skipped a bunch of stuff there, which is great. We actually made it to Chapter 12, which is where our two choices are coming up to reach the bad ending, finally. But first, some more dialogue has changed, so we'll read that first, and then get to our bad ending. So Kesa wanted me to look ahead for hints as to what was coming. I didn't even know how to do that. Not intentionally. I'd read a lot of Sylvia's journal entries on it, though. Those had helped me work out a usable technique for other things, so I supposed it would be the same this time. Sylvia said that time was like a hallway shrouded in fog, but with infinite doors on either side, leading to numerous possible futures. Looking into the past was easier because there was only a single path that led to where we were. The future was more difficult because there were multiple possible futures ahead in that fog. As I pictured this in my head, thinking how precognition might work and if I could really help sense what might be ahead, there was a tiny flicker, something at the edge of my consciousness. No. The mental image was so clear that I knew it wasn't just my imagination. This was postcognition, looking into the past. But why do I sense Brennan's sigh? Maybe because I'd been thinking about him, I'd homed in on that part of the past? It was the future Kesa wanted me to see, but somehow I was still drawn to that man's past, as if it would shed light on what was ahead. I didn't know if I should look, but maybe I would see something helpful, something Kesa hadn't seen before. And maybe it would be good practice for what Jack wanted me to do later. So I grabbed the thread of Psi and followed it back on a path walked not by myself, but by a man named Brennan Raw. An image took shape. More than one. Alright. Do we still run into Rory back? We do. That man from New Albion. But no Lucas. Okay, so he really didn't know you. Alright, we've made it to the two choices. So, the main things for this ending, just to reiterate, Rory cannot join the court, and these following two choices are what matters the most to get this ending. So, for the first one, you have to do You Only Made Us Hate You, which I've done before. And then You Made Us Into Your Enemies First. Ooh, he did not take kindly to that. So I guess what happens is normally Rory would interrupt here during this fight from one of the other endings, but Rory's not here, neither is Lucas, so now we get Angie Brennan. I could, if you would just...
No!
There was a burst of sigh from him that rattled the railing and sent me to my knees, but it came from behind me? I struggled to my feet, gripping the rail tight in my hands as I whipped my head around. Did he teleport? No. It was like there was static in front of my eyes. A mental attack? Or wait, no. Was this entire conversation going on in my head? When did he...
At first, I expected you to understand because you helped me that time. But that was a fluke. An accident caused by a queen who doesn't know her way around yet. I decided I'd take this place and make it better. But why don't you want me to do that? Why are you fighting back just like they do?
Oh, hi Sylvia. I couldn't respond. There was a feeling of the air being sucked away. Then, from the corner of my eye, I caught a familiar figure stepping from the shadows. There wasn't time to block the savage kick aimed from my side, but I had a split second to enhance my body the way I'd seen Jack and Carrie do before. I scrambled away and the next kick didn't land. There was a sick feeling in my stomach as faint realization hit me. The woman who could teleport and throw cyberse. I knew her. Sylvia.
Morgan? What's...
Jack, stay back! What a time for him to see his sister right now. Oh boy. Is it? I guess she must have recognized her from her dream because we did not go back in time this time. Sylvia's fist connected with my jaw, sending me staggering against the railing. Jack was racing towards me, but she reached me first. She grabbed me around the waist and looked towards Jack. I saw recognition flash over his face, the horror, as she teleported us away. Oh, Jack, I feel so bad for him. What a way for that to go. For a long time, it felt like I was wrapped in slime, and the air was being squeezed from my lungs. Another different way of teleporting. Then Sylvia stepped out of the shadows, dragging me with her. Hello, again.
What a troublemaker you are.
My knees hit the ground as Brennan came towards us. This time, I was pretty sure it was actually him. What are you going to do with me?
You already know the answer to that, don't you?
I already severed your link to me. I don't think you can reestablish it.
Ah, that is true. But queens can mimic other queens, you know. And this one is a queen. It's not as convenient to do it this way, but...
A loophole? He would have Sylvia establish the link? Damn. Wait, how does that work? So he controls her to mimic him, so she can control me, and then it's like through proxy? Interesting.
I don't want to do this, but I need your help. So what option is there?
Sylvia, right behind me, made a sudden movement. Hit by instant panic, I scrambled sideways away from her and Brennan. She got me here through teleportation, and while I hadn't done it in a while, it was a trick I knew as well. I didn't have time to consider my endpoint. I just looked into the surrounding area and made the leap. Okay, I was worried she was going to be halfway through a wall. Clearly, I wasn't great at hitting a target location. I stumbled forward and face first into a wall, hard enough my vision whited out. Well, at least you weren't in the wall. I staggered back with a cry, letting out an undignified shriek when someone caught me. What? Endgame's here? Who the... Ari, I swear if it's you.
I have her. The Moirai were correct about the location. Queen's Guard, retreat.
That voice. Oh my god! I can't believe. Hi, Ari. Lovely to see you. I twisted away from my would-be captor. Or tried. Ari kept a firm grip on me. Not getting away this time.
Morgan Leone. We're leaving.
Wait! Wow! And we're just like, instantly at Magnus's office. Damn. Really should have done that, like, the first time instead of the whole kidnapping in the car business. And seconds later, we were standing somewhere I didn't recognize. I stood stock still, trying to catch my breath and figure out what just happened. That was all way too fast. Hi, Magnus.
Goodness, you really are quite the difficult woman to find, aren't you? I'm Magnus Ulrich, Miss Leone. Welcome to Endgame. I trust you will enjoy your stay.
Capture the queen! You know, I can't help but feel like that ending was tailored towards me specifically. I feel like I talked all about my Ari bias and things, right? And then he's the one that comes and snatches me away in the last ending from Jack. Really? Really? The Moirai saw my bias and were like, we will send Ari in to retrieve her. Perfect. Is it bad I'm not even mad? Probably. I am sad for Jack because I think that could have been the worst thing that could happen to Jack in that situation, honestly. He found out his sister is back from the dead. Said sister kidnapped his girlfriend in front of his eyes while he could do nothing. And then at some point he's gonna find out Endgame just stole his girlfriend and he just can't get her back now because she's untouchable in Endgame. Oh, it's like the worst case scenario for that boy. Pfft, spicy, spicy. Well, a lot happened in the last few minutes. There were some interesting conversations leading up to that, and then poof, everything just exploded. Alright, well, that's a great way to end Jack's Route. I hope you guys enjoyed all the bad endings and Jack's Route in general. Now it's time to take a break from Gilded Shadows once again, and I'm back off to Bandcamp Boyfriend, and it's Clark's turn, so could be interesting. Could be very interesting. Hopefully I'll see you over there, guys. Otherwise, I'll see you when I come back to Gilded Shadows. Thanks again for joining me. Until next time, I will see you later.